I feel like when so many people look at people in entertainment, they think that you're just playing. You're playing and singing in a microphone. You're playing and posing for a photo. But the really, truly successful people that have sustainability, they're not playing. They're doing business.
Welcome to you, Tyra.
Oh, thank you, Lee.
What do you like to invest in?
So I have Fierce Capital. It's my own little baby fund. And I'm very attracted to businesses that are female-founded or female-led. However, that's not the only thing that I invest in. I've invested in companies that are run by men, founders that are men. But I've learned over time that it's not about investing in the business, it's investing in the individual. So I have realized I've made my mistakes, as all investors do, thinking, ooh, that's a hot area that I want to invest in. And it's
What
like,
are
wait,
some of the mistakes?
I'm not going to tell you, because then it's kind of like people are going to like connect it to what the companies were that I lost money on.
Okay.
But right now I'm very excited about, I've invested in the Skim, 2 female founders, and they are just kick-ass, and they started it in their living room, and now their growth is exponential. It's fantastic. The beginning of it was a daily newsletter, and what they did is they would wake up the crack of dawn, look at newspapers, and literally skim them with a voice of a female millennial. So there was humor, where you can learn world news and all this type of stuff with humor and a certain slant that made you every morning want to know all of the sections of that newspaper that you might kind of not be that interested in. So they're killing it.
Tell me about Modelland.
Yes, Modelland is my baby that hasn't been born yet, but she is due at the end of this year. Modelland is a location-based attraction where you can be a model for a day. And I don't mean a professional model. I'm talking about families, mamas, daddies, cousins, uncles, sisters, you know, bridal showers, stag parties can come to Modelland and have fun and can be the fantasy versions of themselves.
Who's your partner on that?
I have a super strong staff. I have Disney Imagineers working on this. I have people from Cirque du Soleil on my team. I have people from Immersive Theater, one of the most worldwide renowned immersive theater experiences called Sleep No More. I have very strong people on my team. And we have a really wonderful investor.
You're teaching at Stanford.
Yes.
And you're teaching a branding class?
Personal branding.
Tell me about the class.
So about 4 years ago, I was speaking at Stanford. And then after I finished, I went backstage to kind of get my stuff together because I was late for my flight and had to rush to the airport. And one of the students was like, oh, Tyra, there's a professor that wants to talk to you. She comes backstage and she's like, I have to tell you that I learned more in personal branding than any book I have ever read and than anything. And I teach here at Stanford Graduate School of Business. Would you be open to creating a course with me and teaching it at the school? And I was like, what? I've always wanted to teach. I love teaching. I just thought it would be something that I would be doing when I was 60, not 43, 42. And Allison Kluger is her name, and we spent a year developing a course called Project You, which is all about personal branding. And it is so crucial for business students because differentiation is key. I tell my students that different is better than better. You think you're the best, but you're just better is just this minutia when it comes to that. And after a while, it just becomes a commodity. What is going to make you stand out? What is going to make you get the capital that your competitor is dying for, but that company or that investor is going to invest in you? Everybody's also trying to get the best talent. How do we make that talent out there the most attracted to you, to want to be hired by you and your company? And it all comes down to what you are doing with your personal brand and what you stand for. So, very serious course.
Serious class. It seems like your career really took off at some point because you booked 25 shows in your first runway season at Paris Fashion Week. But behind the scenes, what were you learning about business?
Yeah, so my mother, you know, I didn't realize that my mother and I were almost like the CEO and COO of a business, and the business was my career as a model. And a lot of people are like, oh, you know, with modeling, it's the right look at the right time, and I think that's maybe 25% of it. For me, I think my success was strategy. I studied how Chanel models walked in that fashion show. I studied how Yves Saint Laurent models walked. Chanel was very happy and sweet. And they kind of twirled their pearls and they kind of winked on the runway. Yves Saint Laurent, hair slicked back in a bun, red lipstick, and they walked really elegantly like haute couture. So every single fashion show had a different style and a different look. So when I got to Paris, I had a backpack full of stuff, a kit that I can transform myself to every single designer's look and style. So when I did my runway audition for Chanel, I had my hair down, I put on kind of like a pink frosty lipstick and walked and pretended to twirl pearls. Those people then called Karl Lagerfeld out of his office and said, I want you to look at this girl. And he booked me. Went to the Yves Saint Laurent, the house of Saint Laurent. Pulled my hair back in a bun in an alley before I went into that office. In an alley, pulled my hair in a bun, swapped on some red lipstick, walked for the Yves Saint Laurent casting people. They pulled Mr. Yves Saint Laurent out of his office and said, look at this chick right here, what is going on? This is a new little, you know, très jolie, mignon. And then Yves Saint Laurent booked me, and it was one after the other after the other.
But there was a lot of preparation there that people don't see, right?
Preparation. Sure, my look, of course, for the moment was something that they were ready for, but it was that preparation and the strategy and that literal toolkit on my back that booked 25 fashion shows and broke history, and model had never done that.
Especially as a black woman. And I think that a lot of people think that Europe has this reputation that's more open to black creatives. You know, James Baldwin went there,
Yes.
Lorraine Hansberry, all kinds of people have gone to Europe, Jimi Hendrix. Is Europe different than as a black woman when you broke in?
Yeah.
Did you experience racism there?
I think racism is everywhere. I mean, it's just paramount everywhere. I do have to say that I felt very much accepted in Paris than I did in my own country. I do not think I would have become a supermodel had Paris not enveloped me in her arms and said, you matter, your beauty matters here. One of my first jobs was a magazine cover, booking all those fashion shows. I really felt like I was Josephine Baker of modeling in Paris, where that acceptance there. Of course, there were things that, no, you're black and you can't do X, Y, Z, but it was probably 85, 90% less no's than it was back home.
Okay, then you broke in, first black woman to be on Sports Illustrated and GQ. Now you're coming back.
First female model on the cover of GQ.
Okay.
And
wow.
it's, you know,
okay.
but it's interesting that so many people get that wrong, because I think it's so hard to imagine that a black woman was the first model, not first black model, but first model on the cover of GQ. So it's something that I always have to correct.
So now you're on SI again.
Yes.
So you come out of retirement.
Yes, I came out of retirement. I hadn't modeled in a while. So to go back into the wild was not fun in the beginning. And then I got my sea legs and I felt comfortable again. When I was 32 years old, I was a Victoria's Secret model, actually. I had a contract for many, many years, for a decade with them. My contract started when I was 22 years old. And then when I hit 32, I felt the need almost, you know, in business terms, to pivot and to leave an industry that has a shelf life before it left me. You know, to say, I am not going to be discarded by this industry that values youth. I'm going to leave at the top. I think it was a really good decision. I have people in my life that are like, girl, you had a big fat contract sitting on the table saying, please sign again. And I said no, because I really wanted to stay ahead. But today, the reason why I am coming out of retirement is because since I've retired, and even before that, I've been saying beauty knows no size, no color, no shape, no sexual orientation, no feature, and no age. But I retired because of age.
If you hadn't retired, do you think you would be sitting in this chair talking about all your business ventures like you are?
No. I do think that at that time, the industry would have kicked me the hell out. I think the modeling industry is changing, and it's changing rapidly because it has to, because social media is so powerful and celebrating so much diversity. If the fashion industry does not mirror that, they will become extinct. Their power will. So they have to follow what social media is doing and what society is doing, but then of course make it an aspirational version of that. I think that's what fashion is, it's aspiration. And so no, if I stayed modeling, I don't think that I would be talking to you right now, at least not about this.
Your mother came in right away and said, we have to look at this as a business.
Yes.
Right? And
yes.
so that seed was planted. Do you think that that was a big part of your success? Because you see all kinds of models.
One thing that a lot of people will say is supermodel turned businesswoman. But I was a businesswoman as a supermodel, and now I'm a businesswoman that just happens to be doing other things. But it started with the modeling career. And I think it's hard for people to wrap their head around it because modeling can seem vapid, it can seem narcissistic, it can seem something that's just a genetic lottery and you just hit it and you're just lucky. But when you think about Cindy Crawford, who I was very inspired by, that success, yes, she's a beautiful woman, but she's a kick-ass businesswoman. Heidi Klum, beautiful woman, but a kick-ass businesswoman. And I think the three of us are probably a trifecta of models that have really taken it somewhere else. And I will put Cindy out there. She's gorgeous. Heidi's gorgeous. But I think there's a hell of a lot more models out there that look a hell of a lot better than we do.
And then you reinvented yourself again and came out with the Tyra Banks show.
Yes.
And I remember that. You brought Naomi Campbell on that show.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have an in-studio audience here with us today. So I'm going to ask you at home to please help me welcome Naomi Campbell.
It's so weird because it's so quiet.
I know.
And you talked about this, I don't know if it was a manufactured rivalry or there was some truth to it that...
It wasn't a rivalry. And I'm very sensitive to that word because a rivalry is with two equals to me. Whereas one was very dominant, she was a supermodel, and I was just some new girl that got on a plane from Paris and was studying fashion in magazines at a fashion library. You know,
and you opened that show telling her that you basically had her picture all over your room.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of things that happened that you reflected on that you wanted to confront and heal.
Yeah, I had a very painful early days in Paris. As much as I was booking every single fashion show, people didn't know I was going home at night crying my eyes out because the woman that I was looking up to seemed like she just didn't want me to be there and was doing everything in her power to make me go away. And I didn't understand that as a young girl. Like, why is she doing this? This is so evil. This is so awful. The adult me understands that she was reacting to an industry that was all about a token. When this one girl, Kate Moss, came on the scene, they weren't telling Christy Turlington, you better look out. Kate Moss has got some high cheekbones like you do, Christy. When Shalom Harlow came on the scene, they weren't, Lindy Evangelista, look out, another brunette is on the loose. But when I came on the scene, Naomi, look out, there's a black girl that's going to take your spot.
Because there's only one spot available.
Only one spot available.
Did you starting Topmodel have anything to do with that?
I don't think necessarily consciously that it did. I think a lot of that had to do with my mother and her showing me the business of fashion. My mother used to say, it's not called fashion fun time, it's called fashion business. And I wanted to show models, wannabe models worldwide, that it's more than just a pretty picture.
Is it showing in other countries now? Or?
Oh, yes. So America's Next Top Model, the one that I started and created, at its height was in 186 countries. Now we're in about 140. And we've had 40 international versions.
And this is all under Bankable Productions?
No, so I created the brand. So Bankable Productions produces the American version, the original version. All of the other versions are formats that the network sells that my partner and I participate in the profit participation of that. But those other shows are not produced by us.
Okay, but somewhere along the line you had to learn about the business side of television.
Most definitely.
Was it a baptism in fire, or how did you prepare for that?
Yeah. A lot of mentoring by my partner. My partner on Topmodel is named Ken Mock. And I get a lot of credit for the success of Topmodel because I'm on the show and my face is on the show, but we are partners through and through, and there would be no Topmodel without Ken. What people don't know is Ken pretty much created the format for competition reality television. So many shows followed that. Topmodel was the first. I didn't create that format. Ken Mock took my idea and said, okay, this is how we're gonna break it down every single week. And unfortunately, you can't copyright, you can't trademark, you can't register a format. So There's no participation from Ken Mock on the thing that he has really changed reality television with.
But you say that you were raised by a mother who stayed in a marriage longer than she should have. Tell me about your childhood.
Yeah, so my childhood was, I think it was still pretty positive, even though my parents weren't the happiest married. I was extremely spoiled by my father. Very, very, very spoiled. However, my mother wasn't happy. I didn't know this as a little girl, but she wasn't happy. And later as an adult, I learned that she stayed way longer than she wanted to because she did not have financial freedom. And that, knowing that as an adult, made me make sure that I have financial freedom.
A lot of people think about wealth, but not as much about ownership. It seems like you were doing that from the beginning. How important is it?
I'm not into money. I am into legacy. I'm into owning something. I want to pass something down to my family, particularly being an African American woman and being able to pass that down to generations. That's power, and not just money, but a platform and a symbol to my community to say, it's not just about the paycheck. It's about signing other people's paychecks.
Tyra Banks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate it.
Thank you.